Oh man, I am getting overwhelmed in the comment section of the last video with one question where people are saying the same thing. Why hasn't the evil former Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard been arrested yet? And what is going on with the FBI investigation? In fact, people are saying they really think that she is going to get away with everything. Now, guys, last summer, I already hit on this topic, and we're going to cover it again. And now I'm going to leave no shadow of a doubt in your mind. I'm going to give you all sorts of juicy tidbits and information from my new research that is going to explain to you why it's taking so long, and this special thing, this special clue, you got to watch to the end, where a certain thing happens, and 9.9 times out of 10, this is the dead ringer, the clue that the person in question is definitely not getting off the hook, and that they're in super hot water. Okay, so I tell you what, hit the like button right now. Let's get this video on track and get it popping. In fact, Caroline from the Bottom Line channel told me that the hype button is now active on my channel. Yes, the hype button. So would you please do me a favor? And if you have your hype buttons on, you get 3 of these a week, I think is how it goes. Would you please do me the favor of hitting the hype my video, please, and thank you. So this video will get out there, and I promise you, I'm going to give you continuing updates on any new and juicy information, and I have a new series coming your way because we're going to keep this fair. We have to be fair to Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Now, I'm always exposing her for all of these alleged infractions, okay, and she's claiming innocence, right? So I'm going to be fair, and I'm going to do a series of videos where I'm going to show you where she was right, and the new information when she been spitting facts, because she's spitting some facts like you saw in that last video. I'm going to show you where I agree with Tiffany Henyard and where she is right. Now, I'm not saying that she might not be rotten to the core. I'm not saying that all of a sudden she has a soul. But I'm just going to show you where she is right. And I'm going to reinforce that and show you where Tiffany Henyard is even smarter than a lot of you people that can't stand her, who still are stuck with the Democratic Party. All right, so that's coming. Well, anyway, let's get into what's really going on with the Henyard probe. I tell you what, let's jump to the courtroom so we can go through this, and then we'll come back at the end. So, on to the courtroom. All right, here we are. Let's get this party started. I'm going to go point by point and give you all of the facts. We're going to have all of the facts, just like Tiffany says. So here's what we know is actually going on. First of all, the FBI investigation is active and it's expanding. Yes, I said that. Federal agents have moved beyond Dalton, and now they're probing Thornton Township finances, okay? They are interviewing the current and the former employees about Tiffany Henyard's spending during her time as township supervisor. I'm going to give you all the links, the fresh links to everything I say, so you can check your facts yourself to make sure that you know I'm spitting facts. All right, financial damage and mismanagement, it's all documented. Now, I know what some people are going to say as soon as I say this name, and that name is former Mayor Lori Lightfoot, who really wrecked. She was a wrecking ball to the city of Chicago until Brandon Johnson came and said, hold my beer. I can wreck Chicago a lot worse than Lori Lightfoot. All right. So before you groan and say the Lori Lightfoot investigation didn't do anything. Lori Lightfoot's independent review found a pattern of mismanagement and deception. Lock that into your little minds. including efforts by Henyard's team to hide the true financial condition of the Dalton finances from the trustees and from the public. Remember that. A pattern of mismanagement and deception. That is key. All right? Next point. We already see the orbit. It's tightening, guys. It's tightening. Now, remember that contractor tied to the Chicago area bribery scheme? Yeah, that surfaced in the Dalton investigation, with the records showing hundreds of thousands of village dollars paid to that specific company. I'm going to give you the link to that. So Tiffany's ally and former Deputy Police Chief Louis the Potato Lacey was indicted on bankruptcy fraud. And he was accused of concealing assets and income, and he is explicitly identified as a part of her inner circle. Now, we'll tie all that in later, but let's keep this moving. Next point. Louis Lacey, our police chief, our potato police chief. I told you in the last video that he's cooperating, all right? He had a change of plea hearing, okay? And so did Keith Freeman. And what does this mean? It means that the FBI is working their way up the chain. They're working up the ladder. That is a federal investigation strategy. They're not doing that for no reason at all. Keith Freeman and Louis the Potato Lacey, they're not the ones the FBI wants. But all of you people think that that's the end of it. They're just going after these two people. Well, that's where you're wrong. They're working their way up the chain. Those are stepping stones, okay? Now, let's get to section 2. But before we go to section 2, I want to talk about the previous video before the previous video that I did talking about Joe Biden being a PDF, okay, and the Epstein files, and nobody saw that video. Okay, when I post a Tiffany Henyard video, we're talking 5,000 to 10,000 views. But the stupid YouTube algorithm, when I talk about a very cringe video that shows Biden doing something disgusting, sniffing little girls' heads, and when I talk about the stories about what he was doing with his daughter concerning showering, well, those don't get doled out because it's not about Tiffany Henyard. So I'm telling you now, you need to go back and watch that video and then check out the comment section. There's one thread that's just going long, where there's this person who's triggered because he's upset because he thinks I support Donald Trump. And we're going back and forth, and I'm explaining to him that I support policies, not the person. So that's the commercial for that video. Go check it out. Now, on to section 2. Why this whole investigation is going so slow and not in the style of this other politician got caught and 30 days later was in jail. How come this one doesn't go as fast as some of these other ones that we've seen? Well, I got an answer for you, all right? First of all, it's the complexity of the money trail. Now, in a simple bribery, in a simple bribery or envelope cash case, you might have one official, like a politician. You might have one player or one payer, one bribe payer, the person they're giving the money to. That's what I'm trying to say. You might have one or two transactions. You might have a wiretap, a recorded call, or a sting. But with the Henyard investigation, we've got multiple entities. We're talking Thornton Township and Village of Dalton. We have multiple spending streams. We have the consulting contracts. We've got the travel case, okay? We've got security detail. We have the police officers on the take. We've got all of the vendors and the kickbacks. That's a lot. We have possible cover-ups, many of them going on. So the Lori Lightfoot report described the concerted, systematic effort to hide true finances from the trustees. That's the difference between the mayor that gets caught in a sting and goes to jail in 30 days and why this thing seems to be dragging on forever. So the prosecutors just aren't proving that Tiffany Henyard was reckless. That's not what they're trying to do, guys. They're trying to prove that this was criminal, intentional, and traceable to specific acts and people across multiple government and budget lines. And you know what that takes? That takes subpoenaing the bank records, which they've done. It takes forensic accounting over years of budgets, tons of forensic counting that's going on. It takes flipping the insiders and corroborating every single word. You're seeing them do that right now. We just had the 2 change of plea cases. It also it also takes matching witness statements to those paper trails. All right. So this is why you see time and silence and not a quick wrap up and a perp walk and Tiffany Henyard in cuffs going to jail in 30 days. All right. Also, I had mentioned this before, but they're trying to build a chain, guys, not a headline. Okay. So Freeman, Lacey, the dirty contractors, the dirty township employees. That's a network, guys. It's almost like a RICO case. All right. So here's your typical Fed pattern. Listen carefully. All right. You indict the low level and the mid-level players on provable charges like bankruptcy fraud. See where I'm going there? And then you squeeze them with plea deals and potential prison time. Tell them they're going to go to jail. Like Keith Freeman doesn't want to go to jail and spend time away from his wife and kids, so he's going to give up the information. Then you extract cooperation. Hey, you got emails, you got text messages, you have internal instructions and memos. This is what she told me to do. That's what they're going to find out. And then you climb to the top with a conspiracy or a fraud case that sticks, that does not fall apart. All right. So if Henyard is the target or one of the targets, the feds don't just want a single count slap on the wrist, throw her in jail. They want a structured, multi-defendant narrative that a jury can follow. So that means you got a very complex case that could take like years to do. Remember, I told you about the Kwame Kilpatrick case. How long did that take? 13 years. Did he do jail time? Yes, he did. So it takes several years when you have multiple entities, when there's evidence of concealment, and when people might be too scared to cooperate. That's when they put the squeeze on people. All right, now we can go to section 3, but I want you to check out a video that a lot of you missed that I did on Jasmine Crockett. Yes, the ghetto Jasmine Crockett. Okay, and that video only got 1,000 views because it wasn't about Tiffany Henyard. So I want you to dig back and go check out that video, and then upcoming very soon, I'm going to do a video. I'm going to put Jasmine Crockett up against Tiffany Henyard and tell you who I have more respect for and exactly why. And I can tell you what, I'm going to expose how Jasmine Crockett is a bigger fraud than Super Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Wait for it. It's gonna be good. All right, so let's move on to section 3. Let's talk about the Northern District of Illinois, where the FBI workers go to work every day. Are they overwhelmed? Is that a reason why that this thing could be dragging on a little longer than usual? Well, maybe so. So Chicago's federal ecosystem is one of the busiest in the country. Remember, Chicago is the capital of corruption in the United States, guys. So you're talking about the Northern District that has to handle public corruption, city, county, and suburbs. They got to handle organized crime and gangs, capital of the United States. They got to do the gun and drug cases. They have financial crimes and healthcare fraud. Yep. They have large-scale federal task forces, ATF, DEA, IRS, and on and on and on to manage. Okay, so even without precise stats, it's fair and honest to say that the agents are juggling dozens of cases each. All right, the complex financial cases, they compete for the attention with violence, terrorism, and major fraud. So pretty much you could probably say, yeah, they're overwhelmed. Okay, the system is designed to triage the imminent threats to life and national security. Okay, the Tiffany Henyard case is not an imminent threat to life and national security. It is designed to triage very large dollar frauds. Yeah, Tiffany ran the village of Dalton about $5 million in the hole, but there's a lot more fraud going on, way bigger than that. Hey, even in comparison to other states, and we'll get into that, we're talking $8 billion up in Minnesota. It's pretty disgusting, and over $74 billion in the state of California. And then lastly, it is designed to triage high impact public corruption cases. And there's a whole bunch of those in Chicago. All right. So yeah, Tiffany Henyard's case is a serious case, but we're competing with everything else from cartel cases to city level corruption, all in the same Chicago area region. So I had mentioned Minnesota. Does that take away resources from the Tiffany Henyard case? Sort of, not really. Okay. So here's the thing. The alleged $8 billion fraud going on in Minnesota from the Somali community, which is disgusting. I'm going to have to do a new video on that. For example, those daycares that are still running after they've busted out all the fraud going on, and you still have tons of daycares operating with no children in the building and receiving over $1 million a year each. Okay, so here's the thing. You got all that going on. It's being investigated by a completely different U.S. Attorney office and different FBI field offices, and they have different budgets and staffing, all right? So they're not stealing agents from Chicago to help out with the billions of dollars going on in Minnesota. But that doesn't mean that the DOJ and the FBI leadership are not prioritizing what kind of crimes get the special task forces and additional funding and attention to get the job done. So coming from the federal level, they're probably not sending extra money and resources and placing Tiffany higher than those massive cases that are going on around the nation. You got massive welfare and COVID relief fraud cases that can shape national priorities, even if they don't pull on the same local agents. So yes and no, that does kind of push on it. Now, lastly, let's talk about politics. A lot of you are saying that it's the Democrats because they're protecting their own. Is it true that it could be because it's the Democratic Party protecting Tiffany Henyard? Possibly. No, but yes. So let's talk about this. So you got these FBI agents, and I'm thinking, are they appointed by Democrats? Well, the FBI agents and the career prosecutors, well, they're not appointed by the president of the United States or the governor of Illinois. They're career civil servants, and that means they stay in place across administrations, much in the same way that I worked for 29 years for the state of Missouri. And we changed from governors, from party of the Democratic governors to the Republican governors, but I still kept my job and the majority of all my coworkers. Those are the people at the top that get changed out. So those are the same people that are working. All right. They're not switching based on party, so we can't blame that on the Democratic Party. However, they kind of wonder, they ask, okay, well, what percentage are appointed by the Democrats? Well, it's the top leadership. It's the U.S. Attorney. All right. So the vast majority of the investigators and the prosecutors are not, but the people at the top of the chain, they are political. Okay. So is partisan protection possibly a theory? Well, yes, it can be. Okay, so in theory, political pressure can influence the priorities, like which case are we going to attack first. So if you got the Democrats at the top, they can say like Boss Hogg, J.B. Pritzker, Governor Pritzker, Boss Hogg can say, hey, let's not put Tiffany Henyard at the top of the pile. Let's put our focus on these other cases. Because good and darn well that Boss Hogg Pritzker is trying to deflect attention away from Tiffany Henyard, and he always has. So if you keep putting people like J.B. Pritzker in power, it's going to take away from the ability from them to shift the focus to ramping up the Henyard investigation. Okay, they can also be involved in charging decisions when you have close calls. The governor can influence the judges who are overseeing those cases. And then the governor can also allocate resources to certain categories of crimes. Okay. So to just say, well, they're letting her get away with it because she's a Democrat, we can't say that. But we can say that the Democrats who are in charge can influence the attention that's put on that case. Now, example, look at ding dong Tim Walz up in Minnesota. You had whistleblowers for years that were coming forward and telling the governor, hey, there's people stealing millions of dollars. Okay, there's a lot of fraud going on. What did he do? He punished the whistleblowers. He threatened them. He said, you'll get fired if you don't shut your mouth and go away. You're racist. Don't tell us about Somali stealing because that's white supremacy and it's racist. So it went nowhere. Now, in the state of Illinois, it is possible that people who were blowing the whistle on Tiffany Henyard could be discouraged by the governor, much of the same way that Tim Walz did in the state of Minnesota. And that's why you guys need to really think before you continue voting for these Democrats, because right now they've got the reputation for being responsible for covering up the majority of the largest fraud cases in the United States. That's not to say that Republicans don't do it too, because they do. But right now, we're talking billions of dollars that the Democrats are putting up speed bumps and not letting us get these cases solved. Okay, so that can't happen. The Democrats can throw a wrench into the deal. But there's really no direct public evidence that a partisan loyalty is protecting Tiffany Henyard right now. All right. We can't really say that without showing the evidence. So here's the thing. Here's why it feels like she's getting away with it. And I'm going to give you the one thing, the one clue that will let you know that this is not going away. And this is where I say that 9.9 times out of 10, this is the clue you need to know that this thing is going to come to a close. It's going to happen. All right. There is a time gap between the exposure and the indictment. So you got Lori Lightfoot's reports in the local media. They've already exposed the waste, the mismanagement, and all the deceptions. And then the voters jump in. They punished her. They voted her out. She was badly beaten at the ballot box, right? And she claims it was cheating. It was fake news. You know, it's election fraud. All of that good stuff. But the criminal charges move much slower than the political and the media consequences, okay? Here's the thing. The feds don't telegraph their move. They don't telegraph when they make the big move. Here it is right here. Here's the kicker, guys. Pay attention. Once the subpoenas and the grand juries are in play, the process goes dark. That's right, guys. It goes black dark, and that's that period we're in right now. And the only clues you get are going to be on the side cases like Fat Boy Potato Chief Louis Lacey's bankruptcy fraud and his indictment, or like Keith Freeman going back to court 2 days before Louis Potato Lacey, who changes his plea in the court. And kind of like when you see the quiet expansion of the case, like when they moved into the Thornton Township and not only just Dalton. Okay, lights back on. So cooperation takes time. The change of plea hearings in November of 2025 suggest that people around her are probably cooperating, guys. But every new witness generates new leads, new documents, and new interviews, and it takes time to handle all of that. And they're going to go through every single lead, okay? Every single lead. They're not going to leave a stone unturned because they want a 100% lock, stock, and barrel clear-cut, closed case. They want a bulletproof indictment where she cannot wiggle out. And that's why it seems like it has gone away. That's why it's gone black. And that's why this is going to take a long time and end in the same way that we saw with Kwame Kilpatrick. Yep, it's going to happen. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to dig into a few other things, hopefully, as soon as I finish the research and talk more about this case, give you some more juicy information, and then we'll get in that series. We're going to be focusing on how Tiffany is right. I'm going to give you a little sneak preview of a song that I put together using AI.
He got the facts. She got the facts. Straight facts. If you don't want to hear it, step back, step back.
And you will be able to download it very soon when we launch the series where Tiffany is spitting facts, guys. She giving facts. And we're going to let her speak, and I'm going to reinforce when she is right. All right, smack that like button if you haven't already, and subscribe if you're new. Congratulations. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you here. Let's go back to the studio. So thanks for watching. And again, guys, gee whiz, the YouTube algorithm is really mean, and you're missing a ton of great content and information that I'm putting out there. You got to come to my channel, come to my page, and look at the stuff that I'm posting. I'm doing great stuff, but nobody gets to enjoy it because YouTube's too stupid to dole out my videos unless it involves Tiffany Henyard. So we're gonna have to just give the YouTube algorithm what it wants, more Tiffany Henyard. That's all I got for this one, guys. I'm out.